Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's going on, y'all? Some of y'all may know me as Freddie, some of y'all may know me as Nathan, but I'm excited to get back here. Well, what am I talking about? I've never been on a mic before, but just been praying, been talking to God, and after a message I heard on Sunday from our Pastor Daniel from Sooner Park Wesleyan. If you haven't heard of Sooner Park, highly encourage you. Get on YouTube, search Sooner Park Wesleyan Church. Fire stuff happening there. We're talking about 30-second testimonies. And last night I was just chilling, and felt like God put in my heart, like, hey, why don't you share your testimony online? Put it on YouTube, record it, post it out there. I'm like, I've always wanted to do a podcast, so this is kind of cool, and I've really been thinking about it. I think I'm going to start my own podcast, and right now, the title that we're rocking with, we're going to call it Let's Talk, and within this podcast, we're just going to be talking about whatever, whether it be life, whether it be God, whether it be friendships, relationships, sports, whatever it may be. I'm ready to talk about whatever. So whether one person watches this or 15, 20, I don't know, 1,000 even, Lord willing, I just pray and hope that this podcast or whatever this is going to be just brings the light of Jesus to the people, and people are able to see where I'm coming from. So I'm excited to share this. If you're tuning in today, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is going to be going on my drums channel. So I do post drum videos. Haven't posted in a while, but I would definitely want to get back into it. So make sure you turn those notifications on. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. So let's talk. What are we talking about today? So for the first episode, I think I want to share my testimony about who I am, or just really share about me, who I am, because a lot of people really don't know who I am. So I'm just going to talk about my upcomings, what I inspire to do, and maybe a little bit towards the end we'll talk about what I want to do with this podcast again. All right, so first off, as I said earlier in the intro, a lot of people I go by different names. First of all, I've always, as a kid growing up, I always went by Nathan. That's just what everybody knew me as. And then as I got older, I started to switch, especially as I got to my university, Oklahoma Wesleyan University. I started getting called Freddie, because my first name is Frederick. I was named after my dad. And now I just kind of go by both. I'll go home and people will call me Nathan, but here at school, everybody just knows me as Freddie B. Some people will even call me Junior. So a lot of different names. So honestly, I don't even know what to go by anymore. I'll take any name at this point, as long as it's not offending. But I wanted to get on here, for the first episode, just to share my story, share who I am, a little bit about myself. As I said in the intro, like I said, we talked about 30-second testimonies at church. And yes, I do want to do a 30-second testimony, but I want to dive in a little bit more and expand just about who I am. And so we'll start from the beginning. So I was born to African descent parents. So both my parents are from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. My dad moved to the States because of the military, and so we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Washington State. My mom, when he first joined the military, my dad first joined the military, they were in North Carolina, and then I was born in Washington, like I said. And then came my sister, and then we moved to Germany, where my last two siblings, my sister and my brother, were born. And so grew up moving a lot. We were in Germany for 6.5 years, so Germany was a big part of my life. Grew up there from like ages 3 to maybe like 9, beginning of when I turned 9, before we moved to Louisiana. around where may have been like 9, closer to 10, and then now being in Oklahoma since I was like 13. And so the way we kind of grew up, so I did grow up in a Christian household. My mom, definitely a powerful woman of God. I give a lot of credit to her for my upbringing as a Christian now. But towards the beginning, especially as I grew up as a kid, I can honestly say my dad, he wasn't the strongest believer. And that kind of influenced me as well. You know, one of the biggest things I grew up as a kid, I really didn't want to go to church growing up. It's not that I didn't, I grew up in it, but I didn't want to go. My mom, she would make us stand up and do these things, and I hated standing up during worship. I just hated doing it. I didn't want to ever go to church. And so there were some Sundays, I would skip church, just wouldn't go, didn't want to go. Some days my dad didn't go. I stayed home with him. Or he also went to another church. My parents went to different churches by choice. So sometimes I went with him. And if he didn't go, sometimes I didn't want to go, but I would forcefully, was having to go with my mom. So I'd go. But as I got older, I never really, I would say as a kid, I never really had the faith for myself. I went to church, didn't really know any better, and that was kind of it. But as I got older, I'd say during middle school, it was kind of the same thing, just going to church. My dad really wasn't going to church. When we moved to Oklahoma, kind of just hanging low. My mom would go. We would go with her because she forced us. She made us go to church. She wanted us in church. And we went every Sunday. And so I think when we first moved to Oklahoma, maybe I was like 12, 13. My dad actually got deployed to Afghanistan. And around that, when he was in Afghanistan, I saw like the change of God happen in his life, like for real, a whole 360. And it was really cool to see that change. And that a little bit kind of influenced my faith. I still really wasn't as strong in it. I would say around that time especially, I was listening to every rap song more than Christian music. I'd say, I had my couple Christian music. I was listening to a little bit of Kirk Franklin, Lecrae, these Christian rappers. But most of my playlists was, Drake, Kendrick, all the rap. I was really big into rap around that time. And so that was my life. Really wasn't really following God. It really wasn't as serious. And then my dad came back from Afghanistan. He did like a little surprise thing, and it was like so dope. Really close, a little 8th grader, and he surprised us at our schools, me and my sister's school, our middle school, and then my sister and brother's elementary school. So that was really dope. And, still really wasn't in the faith when my dad got back. And I think I remember a little bit after we got back, maybe some months or a year after, we went to this like revival thing. I couldn't remember what it was for. It was for this missionary. I think he was a missionary. I can't remember. But his name was Reinhold Bonnke. He's from Germany, but he would do these events all across the world. Renowned guy, powerful man of God. He passed away some years ago. But we went to this event, and they had a kind of an altar call. And I remember going to the front, and that's kind of, I went to the front to receive Jesus into my life, where I knew I kind of needed him. And so I went to the front, did the thing, where they lead you in prayer. Do you believe in Jesus with your heart? Say these things after me. And I did all that. And it was great. Then after that, I remember going into high school. Sophomore year was really where something clicked for me. Don't know why, but it kind of just happened. I never had those moments where I felt like God was talking to me, but I felt like the Holy Spirit was working in me. And so I really had a strong conviction to cut secular music. And so I remember sophomore year, I'm in history class. I can still remember it. And I did like the biggest mass delete of my playlist. Like I'm talking, I went through, I wasn't even paying attention to class at that point, but went in and I'm talking every song on my playlist, bang, deleted. Every secular song just went through. I had so much Drake, so much rap. I don't even know what all I had, but I deleted just about everything. And that's where I had that moment where I knew I was going to give my life to Christ. Um, and so throughout high school, well, let me back up a little bit because I forgot to talk about some stuff we missed. So throughout growing up, one of the biggest problems I had, I would say, is I was a hothead. I mean, I had bad anger issues where, one of the sayings I still remember my dad would tell me as a kid growing up was, let the grown folks handle it. All the time I heard that saying, and I still never listened. I would always try to take things into my own hands, whether that was at home, at school. And so I didn't really get in trouble as much. It wasn't like I wasn't a bad kid, but there was some times I did get called to the principal's office, got sent to the office or got sent home early, just because of bad behavior, trying to fight kids or trying to mess with my siblings or boss them around like I was the boss. And it definitely got me in trouble. And so freshman year of high school, I tried out for the basketball team, made the team, but at semester, I actually was removed from the team because of being a hothead. There was some moments in practice multiple times where yelling at teammates, frustrated, and I remember having a meeting with the head coach at the time, Coach Wallace, great guy. I still keep up with him a little bit, really not as much. But he pulled me aside, he had my dad in the room, and they decided that they were going to suspend me for the rest of that semester, and then I'd be removed from the team just because it wasn't going to work. And so it hurt, honestly, because basketball meant a lot to me. And so leaving the team was like, man, all those things that I did, and now I have to leave. And a lot, as I look back at it now, a lot of it was because of me, just being that hothead. And that went on with me, for a while. Throughout high school, I had problems, not really problems with people, but especially in sports, doing sports and just being that competitive guy. It drove me to be more of a hothead, If we didn't win, I was angry. If things didn't go my way, I was angry. And I never really fixed it. Like, my parents were always praying for me, praying for us as children. But it never clicked until I remember, like, freshman year of college. I had a moment where my brother was angry, but I was able to be a peacemaker. And it was, like, weird. It was like, where did this peace come from? And honestly, I can say it only came from God. That moment, like, I still to this day, I don't understand it. And like, I can freely say now that, of course, I still have my moments sometimes where I get frustrated, but God has really delivered me and helped me with my self-control, where I'm able to be a peacemaker and, not worry about things when I do get angry, and I'm able to calm myself down. And eventually, even if there's conflict between people, I'm able to help them resolve the conflict without problems. And so that's a big part of my testimony is, being delivered from anger. And so, yeah. So currently, what do I currently do? So right now, I serve as an admissions counselor at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. And so part of my story with Oakwood, the school I went to, I started at community college, and I knew that was the route I wanted to go. But after, I needed to go find a place where I wanted to go to school after. I had a couple school options. I say about 3. It was first ORU, which is Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, and then Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. Oakwood was never in the picture until later and kind of came behind the scenes. Really, it was a God thing. And my friends were going to OSU, and so the plan was, if I went there, we're going to get an apartment, we're going to room together. That was the plan. ORU, I knew I had to apply there because it was a Christian school. My sister went there. My dad got his master's. And the church that I was going to at the time, everybody went to ORU. My pastor was an ORU professor. Taught in the master's program, and so it was a school I was thinking about. But I remember one night, and I felt God just saying, "Why don't you apply to Oklahoma Wesleyan University?" I'm like, "All right." So I do it. I apply, get the application done, and I remember, I think 24, 48 hours later, I get accepted. And it was by coincidence, I also got accepted to ORU, but ORU took a little bit longer with my application. So I was like, dang, that's kind of cool. And for some reason, I remember one day I was sitting in the living room with my mom. She was on a prayer, and I heard a story that just hit me so hard. And it was just talking about the journey. I can't remember what the prayer points specifically were about, but it's about the journey. Basically, what I got out of that story is God was telling me, like, I will be with you. If you go to Oku, I'm going to be there with you. And that's where, at that dinner table, listening to my mom on that prayer line, that's where I knew I was going to Oku. And so when I took my visit, it just felt like home. It felt like a community, and I loved it so much. And so I remember the summer before I was getting ready to go to Oakwood, I go to this prayer thing with my mom, and I'm there, and one of the women of God that was there and the men of God, they were praying, and they're praying for me. And one of the things that came out while they're praying for me is they were prophesying to me and saying, you're going to do great things at Oku. You're going to be a leader. People are going to look to you and these things. And I was believing for it. So fast forward, it's August, it's moving day. I get to Oku. I'm excited. And the first week was rough, man. When I tell you it was rough, I was homesick. Like, I did not want to be at Oakwood. Like, I loved Oakwood, but I was like, man, I do not want to be here right now. First of all, I didn't know anybody. I missed home, even though I lived like an hour away. I had never been away from home. I'm missing home. I'm going home like every weekend. So I had a wedding, I think like 2 weeks after school started. So I'm out. There's an event. I'm like, nah, I ain't going to that. I'm going home. I'm going to the wedding. The wedding was great. I come back to Oakwood, and like that first semester, I was basically a dorm rat. I go to class, I go get dinner, back in my room. And even then, I barely went. I didn't even go to church. I decided I was going to stay in my dorm, do online church. That was my life. And I'm like, God, where's these opportunities coming from? Where's these opportunities? Where am I going to get the opportunity to shine and be this leader that you're calling me to be? And I remember second semester, things started clicking like this. I started actually getting out more. It was little. It wasn't fully yet, but I started going to things. And I remember the first opportunity I had to go to this event was in Kansas. It was this girl, her name was Emma. I knew her, but I didn't really know her well. We were kind of like acquaintances, just kind of know her. And I was invited to go to this lock-in. And I'm like, okay. So I go to the lock-in or whatever. And it was really cool. And that opened the door to start really talking to people. I started getting to know some students, starting hanging out. And then later on in the semester came the opportunity to sign up for camp teams. And so getting time, I had never been to camp in my life. Growing up, never went to camps, did all these Christian stuff. And so I was excited. I was like, okay, this is my first chance I get to camp, make an impact on students. I'm like, let's do it. So I sign up, I do the interview, and I get chosen. And through that, I get another opportunity to go to another event. This time it's in South Dakota. I had made friends, and so I get to go to the lock-in and had a great time. And then again, another opportunity. I go to that lock-in, and I'm like, man, this is dope. I'm getting to do these things. I'm getting involved on campus. And then also at the end of that semester, I had signed up to be a student mentor, and I get that position. And so I'm excited. Boom, boom, boom. Opportunities coming. God's working. And so to fast forward a little bit, another position, I served as student body vice president for my senior year. And to fast forwarding, my senior year was amazing. God showed up in great ways. I got to be this great leader. I got to do things. Got to serve for the school. The camp teams had gone well. Funny story about camp teams. Our second week, we actually caught COVID. And so I got to be in a cabin one of those weeks of camp. Great experience. That's a story time for another day. But like I said, within that, I got so many opportunities. But if I had just sat in my dorm and been a dorm rat, I would have never got those opportunities. And so truly, man, I thank God for the opportunity that I had within camp teams, within being a senior, getting out there to really push myself as a student. And, now coming back to the university, after I graduated, I left. I did social work for a little bit. And the journey through social work was a tough job, definitely. But God shaped me in that job to just be a leader, to be a light. It was hard some days to be a light to people, when you're getting harassed by clients who, within that job, what I did was I was called a permanency worker. So what that basically means is kids basically were taken away from their parents. And my job is to watch these kids with their parents, how they interact, to be able to say they can go home. And there were some days I got harassed by parents, man. It was difficult. And I just was so worn out from that job that I had to leave. And so getting to come back to Oakwood, it's been amazing. I've loved the journey. It's truly been such a blessing. And I'm loving it so far. I've been there now 8 months. I love my team. I get to be in the city in Bartlesville where I'm at now and get to just hang out with the people that I've gotten to know well, and getting to make an impact on the students' lives is truly amazing. And so in all these things, something I would encourage, if I were to encourage something to somebody out there, is your journey matters. Don't look at your mishaps in life as bad things. Everything happens for a reason. I think one of the biggest things I look back on and I thank God for is, all the things that happened with the game of basketball. Obviously it didn't go my way. My goal was someday to be in the NBA, to play ball, really take it as serious, but it wasn't meant for me. That's not the journey. And so it's funny because people will make jokes with me like, man, dude, you're 6'6". How are you not playing pro ball? This and that. I've even been told by a student like, bro, you wasted all that height. You ain't playing ball, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it wasn't meant for me. And honestly, I'm content with that. I do other things. I play drums, and I'm grateful for that journey. And I'm grateful for the journey that God has me on. So that's a little bit about my testimony. I hope that whoever watches this is encouraged, to push through in life. Like I said, don't let those mishaps in your life, those bad things that have happened, shape who you are. But reflect on those things, really reflect on them. God has a plan for you, and it's great. And I don't know, I just hope to be an encouragement to people. So that's really the end of my testimony I think I'm going to share today. But if you guys want to hear more about my testimony, my story, feel free to leave it in the comments what you'd want to hear. Ask questions. I'd love to be able to answer questions. But yeah, I'm excited to do this podcast. Like I said, the Let's Talk podcast. This is something I've always wanted to do, just to talk on a mic, and now I get to do this. And I don't think I'll do this forever for sure. I want to make this as short as possible, but I'm excited for the future of this. And so, like I said, if you're watching this, share this, like, subscribe. There's going to be more episodes coming out. Might have some guests on here. Who knows? But yeah, thanks for tuning in to episode 1 of the Let's Talk podcast. And so then it's your boy, Freddie Nathan Bompuku in the building. I'll see y'all later.